sports. It's in the game.
Back in 2015, I attended my first ever Formula 1 Grand Prix here. 6 years later, and now here I am again, but this time I'm your commentator. Welcome to round 10 of the Formula 1 Championship in 2021. There really is no place like home. It's the British Grand Prix. It's the venue of the very first race in Formula 1, held back in 1950, and a lot has changed since then. We have the new loop section introduced in 2010, we have 18 corners, we have 2 DRS zones that will not be used due to the rain out here. It also rained in 2015 during said appearance, and it's raining today. Some things never change, and one thing we haven't seen this season now is the appearance of either safety car, Aston Martin or Mercedes. And we are now entering the 10th round of the season, and we could be going for a bit of a record in that regard. We'll have to wait and see. Well, having taken a look at the grid for this race, it was all set during the sprint race in which Mercedes dominated and locked out the front row, with Lewis Hamilton getting ahead of World Championship leader and teammate Valtteri Bottas. They were followed by Lando Norris and Max Verstappen, and they were followed by Daniel Ricciardo and Sergio Perez in a Noah's Ark effect. Charles Leclerc will go from 7th alongside Pierre Gasly. Sebastian Vettel will go alongside Fernando Alonso, completing the top 10. Yuki Tsunoda lines up alongside Lance Stroll once again, and it's the same for Esteban Ocon and Antonio Giovinazzi in 13th and 14th. George Russell was alongside Aiden Jackson, who benefited from a grid penalty for Carlos Sainz, sent down taking places from 7th to 17th for a component change alongside Kimi Raikkonen. Mick Schumacher and Nicholas Latifi complete the grid of 20 for today's Grand Prix. It's going to be a wet start, and this isn't even a third of the story, because we've had stories all weekend. It all started on the Friday when Aiden Jackson turned some more heads with a superb performance in his FP1 session in a Mercedes, and then the rumour mill started to churn, with Aiden Jackson supposedly, and this is only a rumour by the way, approached by Aston Martin at request by Mercedes. All parties neither confirmed nor denied such a rumour. We also saw the reveal of the F1 2022 car, but now there are fears that it may be pushed back a year due to cost reasons. And that has really maybe had a worrying state of affairs at HAAS, because if Jackson was approached by Aston Martin, they would lose a driver, and there's obviously rumours that Nikita Mazepin could be considering other options should he not be back in the car for 2022. And that could really leave HAAS in a big pickle. And, well, it's not so bad right now, because they've got the 2 points that put them ahead of Alfa Romeo and Aston Martin in the Constructors' Championship, and that money could become even more vital if that is the case. It really has sparked a merry-go-round in the driver market, with Aston Martin supposedly approaching Aiden Jackson, if you've heard the news in the rumour mill. Well, I think most people would be happy about that, except the fans of Sebastian Vettel, because unfortunately, well, it really doesn't look like Lance Stroll will be going anywhere anytime soon, considering his father is the owner of the Aston Martin stake, of course. But are you going to pass up an opportunity to have one of the diamonds in the rough for a few years, the best of the bunch? Nope, you're not. And if it's true, Jackson to Aston Martin could be a huge upgrade, and this kid deserves to be on the grid. So if Mercedes and Aston Martin can make that work, they will do so. And well, it'll only be a more of a nurturing position for Aiden Jackson, because after Lewis Hamilton retires, Mercedes, well, they found Aiden Jackson, they might as well use him. But those are stories for another day. We're here today following the sprint race, the first ever. Now we're here for the main event. and it's wet, hold on to your seats. Here we go then. Here's the green flag at the back, and here come the 5 red lights ahead of the drivers. We are halfway through 2021. There's another half to go. Lights out. And away we go for the British Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton leads away from the front. Valtteri Bottas is trying to go down the inside, but Hamilton has more space going into space and more speed, something like that. Anyway, he leads into turn 2 and turn 3 into the new loop section. This is now the front of the circuit. It was the back of the circuit in 2010. It looks like there's not been a lot of movers, although I say that, and Aiden Jackson, rather expectedly, is now showing in 13th place again. And it looks like he's had another monster start. He was down in 16th on the grid, so he's not made up that many places, but he's made up 3. And HAAS now once again in lofty heights. There's Yuki Tsunoda go down the inside, and that's going to be an easy pass, you'd feel. Although power doesn't really affect HAAS that badly in the rain, because it's less about power and more about good traction in these conditions. And Aiden Jackson keeps the position ahead of Yuki Tsunoda as they head into Cops for the first time. This used to be the front of the circuit back in the 90s. Yuki Tsunoda is right up the rear wing of Aiden Jackson as he pulls out to go down the inside. And did he make that stick? No, he didn't. Aiden Jackson stuck that one out. Brilliant move there by Jackson. Here's Carlos Sainz, still in 17th place, making no inroads whatsoever at the start. And that's a surprise. You'd expect Carlos Sainz to have made about 5 places by now, considering the Ferrari power unit. Although no one, to be fair, no one has had the match of the Mercedes cars today, because they have been impeccable this weekend and no one has been anywhere near them. The McLaren of Lando Norris has come closest, but already Lewis and Valtteri are starting to run away, and this is quite a predicament for Mercedes right now, because Valtteri Bottas is leading the championship. A win here for Lewis would take him back into the lead, regardless of what Bottas does in this race. And Hamilton, he dominated the sprint race, he's dominating now, and here's the start. And Lewis Hamilton excels in these conditions, more so than in the dry. You can tell he's definitely the idolising of Ayrton Senna is in him with his wet weather performances in his career. And that was an impeccable start as the Mercedes lead from the front. We want to see the start from Aiden Jackson, because once again he seems to have put the HAAS in the mid-pack, and here we go. And what happened here? Jackson not putting up a lot of revs. Didn't seem to have gone off the line that well. He just tucked in behind the Alfa Romeo there of Kimi Raikkonen. Goes down the inside of George Russell. Doesn't really manage to hold it. It's probably going to be in this corner where he brakes later than most. Very much like Azerbaijan. Dive bombs down the inside and passes about 4 or 5 cars in the space of a corner, because Aiden Jackson has been tremendous at that this season. And he's taking the outside line on the track. It's normally the outside line that's best in the wet conditions. Try to pass Lance Stroll, nothing doing there. Of course, he had a battle with Lance Stroll for 2 points in France. But Stroll ain't able to get away. There was Yuki Tsunoda going back down the inside of Jackson in that one. Jackson sticking to the outside and just effortlessly turning that car. He's feathering the car round the corner, and somehow he gets such speed out of the corner to pass Tsunoda, or repass Tsunoda. And we should see, or I hoped we were going to see, Yuki Tsunoda going down the inside of Cups there, but it wouldn't have worked out for Tsunoda anyway. So now, here we are on lap 2. Lewis Hamilton leading from Valtteri Bottas, Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, Daniel Ricciardo. The loser is Sergio Perez, and the winner is Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel Ricciardo's moved up to 5th, and Sergio Perez has gone down from 5th to 7th, so he's the loser. Daniel Ricciardo's the winner. Pierre Gasly's in 8th, followed by Sebastian Vettel and Fernando Alonso. So not really many movers in the first few laps. Only Jackson making up a few places as per. And Daniel Ricciardo was the other winner. And here we are with Max Verstappen. And he normally excels in these conditions. Hopefully Red Bull will find a power evening kind of event here. But even the Mercedes is looking good in the rain at the moment, as Hamilton already has a second lead over Bottas. He is checked out on lap 3 of this Grand Prix already. He is gone, and well, it's going to be a hard task for anyone to catch them today, because they've been well clear of the rest of the field all weekend long. Really, no one has had the legs of them at all. Could be a different story in Hungary with more downforce, because Mercedes did struggle in Monaco and have historically struggled in Singapore. And here is the man of the hour, Aiden Jackson, who's been in the news all week. And he finished 2nd in FP1, 5 tenths slower than Hamilton on the medium tyres. It sure was a great performance but he's been kind of sent back down to earth, sadly, although 16th place on the grid isn't too shabby, to be honest, considering the HAAS car. And now he's 13th, holding off Yuki Tsunoda. The only real threat to him at the moment would be Carlos Sainz, but he's only just got past George Russell. So Sainz is not a very great start to this race. He's well out of position down in P16 and really making no headway at all. I guess with the rain being the equaliser of the field, really harms the Ferrari power unit, which has not been performing at all cylinders all weekend, to be fair. Charles only got 5th and Sainz only got 7th, and then was sent 10 places down for a component change. So it's not all been plain sailing for the Ferrari cars today. Giovinazzi's the highest, Jackson's the highest ranking one in 12th place, I think that is now. And then Giovinazzi in 14th, and then Sainz in 16th, and then Kimi in 18th. So the highest running Ferrari car is obviously Charles Leclerc in P6. But we're talking a bit further down the field, and then Jackson showing in P12. Unfortunately not able to make really any inroads on Lance Stroll, unfortunately. So I guess it's another strange conundrum where Jackson is walking up to Stroll, and Sainz has passed Ocon as they come into turn 3 on lap 4. And that's going to be Lance Stroll commit the curb, and he's going to go into the spin. And Lance Stroll has spun it, and now he's going to have to wait for everyone to go by. That runs Aiden Jackson now to P11 on the verge of points. And, well, Lance Stroll there. And the conditions are treacherous, to be fair, but to me, on the camera we saw, it looked like he took too much curb and did what Vettel did back in France. And the Aston Martins are spinning again. And here's a replay. And let's see here. Into, I think it's the Vale corner, and that is a spin. And that's going to send Lance Stroll to the back of the grid then. And he's going to have to wait for this whole gaggle of cars from Jackson to Latifi to go by, and he's going to be back at the field. So now Lewis Hamilton leads on lap 4 by 1 second ahead of Valtteri Bottas and 2 ahead of Lando Norris. It's checkout time. It's hammer time for Lewis Hamilton. He's impeccable here. He grabbed one of his finest ever victories in 2008, and he's on for another one here in the rain. And Max Verstappen, you would have thought, we were cruising up to the back of Lando Norris, but nothing doing yet. And Giovinazzi's passed Carlos Sainz. It's actually Carlos Sainz has passed Giovinazzi, so Carlos Sainz is starting to make some inroads in the field now. He's P13. Of course, Aiden Jackson has formed a train, so that's probably going to help out. And here it is. Well, there is a bit of a gap between Sainz and Tsunoda. And going back to the front. Well, it all seems to have evened out in this race already. I don't think we're going to have a lot of movers in this Grand Prix. It's amazing how we're still on the intermediate tyres. It really looks wetter than... It's probably not as wet as it looks. It probably looks worse than it actually is. I'm surprised we didn't see the rain tyres out, to be fair. We haven't had to use them so far this year. We had a wet ending to the Spanish Grand Prix. We had a wet ending, or a wet middle part of the Austrian Grand Prix, or the Styrian Grand Prix. But apart from that, we've not really had extensive running on these tyres. So this is the first extensive running in the wet that we've had this season. Of course, it was only at Silverstone, right?
Engine 9, position 8, position 8.
I'm the soulmate. Tell me something.
Stand by.
Not again.
Something.
Engine 9, position 2. Engine 9, position 2.
We keep saying I can't change it.
Okay, stand by, Max. We're looking.
How can this happen?
Okay, so
This, mate.
yeah, that's it. Sorry.
It's happened again at Honda. Max Verstappen is out to the British Grand Prix, and Honda's crisis era continues. And Red Bull now, that is a massive blow after the high that they had at the Austrian Grand Prix in which Max Verstappen dominated. It's now back down to normal service resumed. Max Verstappen is out of the British Grand Prix, and we're not even surprised anymore. That is now the... I've even lost count. So we have one in Imola for Max. He blew out. Then there was one in Portimao for Perez. And then there was one in Spain for Max. So that's 3. And then they had 2 in Austria. And another one for Sergio Perez in like the other Austria race. So that's now 6 engine problem retirements for Red Bull this season. Nothing short of appalling at the moment. The reliability really needs correcting. Well, they have been helped by the fact that Mercedes have had a couple of weak races in recent times, with Carlos Sainz taking the French Grand Prix, Lando Norris taking the Styrian Grand Prix, and then Max Verstappen finally winning at the 9th time of asking in the Austrian Grand Prix. But now it's back down to normal service. Aiden Jackson is being battled by Yuki Tsunoda. There's Carlos Sainz going down the other way. It's going to be a right battle into the Maggie to Beckett section. Lewis Hamilton did a move like this once, and I think it was Max Verstappen and Nico Rosberg sometime around here as well. Carlos Sainz has made that one stick. He's up into P11. But now Aiden Jackson, in front of his home crowd in his first home Grand Prix, is now running in 10th place for HAAS as they continue to defy the odds. And trying to go around the outside of Sainz, nothing doing there. We've got a bit of a battle here brewing for the final point in this race with Max Verstappen's retirement. Ricciardo up to P4 and Charles at the P5 and Sergio Perez at the P6. They've not had a great weekend, Red Bull. It's kind of been back down to normal service, and Max Verstappen now has retired from almost over half the Grand Prix this season. It has been a really scuppered championship campaign for Max Verstappen. It's not over yet, but with every race that goes by, his first championship, at least for this year, is getting ever slimmer. And now he's suffered another one. Red Bull still have a lot of work to do in the reliability department. Meanwhile, Carlos Sainz going down the inside of Aiden Jackson. It's going to be an easy pass, you feel. Jackson's going to try and hang it around the outside. He's actually going to get a pace coming out of that corner. Wow, the power output of that Ferrari power unit really seems good in the hands of Jackson. That was a brilliant coming out of that corner there from Carlos Sainz. He's obviously going to have his hands full this afternoon in this Grand Prix. He's going to try down the inside of Cops, surely. And we've seen moves out here before, and Jackson is going to hold him around the outside of Cops. How on earth, in that HAAS, did Jackson manage to do that? Now Sainz going around the other side, running Jackson to Maggins and Beckett again. Jackson seems to carry more speed out of the corners. It's going out of the corners and through the corners, but Jackson has this immense pace that he grabs, and of course the rain is equalising the power matter here, so HAAS can now be on even keel with the Ferrari and the Honda power unit of Yuki Tsunoda, even though the Honda power unit has been nothing short of dreadful this season in the hands of Red Bull, but the AlphaTauri boys are managing just fine. And here we are on lap 7 as the Mercedes have checked out now. Lewis Hamilton with a 4-second lead over Lando Norris. And even the McLaren with the Merc power unit can't get anywhere near these two today. The Mercedes are out on their own, absolutely controlling this race. I don't think we're going to see much of them this afternoon. I know Jackson's having a battle with Carlos Sainz, we won't. But, oh my. Well, it looks like the middle of the field is going to be the place for some action today, and it normally involves Aiden Jackson, and that stands true today in front of his home crowd, roared on by his home crowd, because let me tell you something for free. Aiden Jackson has amassed quite the following this weekend. His first 9 races have been nothing short of sensational for this rookie, and now he's in 10th place again, trying to aim for another point. He'll be hoping it keeps raining, because that'll obviously aid him in the battle, as the power won't be such a factor here. Power isn't a huge factor here. There is 2 straights, of course, but they're not as long as, say, Baku, so that might help Jackson out. Oh, it's going to be nowhere near stopping raining. Look at this. It's absolutely bucketing down out here. I'm obviously in my warm commentary box here this time. I was pretty much in the stands at Love Field when it rained. I had no coat that day either, so I kind of got soaked. But here we go with Carlos Sainz to the Maggots and Beckett's. Nothing doing there against Aiden Jackson. He's run a bit wide on the exit of Beckett's, and now that give Carlos Sainz the best opportunity down the straight. Did he get the power coming out of the corner? No DRS, of course. And no, he didn't, because that HAAS is tremendous coming out of the corners. And I'll tell you something, Jackson's not forming a complete train. They are falling back from not really Yuki Tsunoda, but Antonio Giovinazzi is not really as close to Jackson as we thought. So Jackson's got some good pace in that car today. And that was a pretty long camera angle, but here they come. That was great at camera action there. And Lance Stroll has made his way back up to Nicholas Latifi. He's now 2 seconds behind him. He's spun on lap 3. So maybe this will help Stroll out. A safety car would really help Stroll out at this point, but I don't think we're going to get one. Well, I'll be amazed if we get one this season. We've gone half the season already, and has seen no appearance from the safety car. Oh, look at it. Sainz got great speed coming out of there, but we cut to an Alpine momentarily. But now we're going to cut back to Carlos Sainz down the inside, and Jackson's going to hold it around the outside again, and he's taking the Max Verstappen line through corners at the moment, and he's gone through. Jackson has held him off again, and the Max Verstappen line taking the wider line out of corners. He's taking the Max Verstappen trait there, and now we go into Cop's corner again. Sainz looking down the inside, backs out of it. You don't want to be taking a bit of a half-hearted move. It's Stowe in the Cop's in these conditions. Down the outside goes Sainz again, and Jackson places his car in the best places he could place it at the moment. He's doing tremendously well against the Ferrari, and it's the works Ferrari as well. If Jackson can pull this off, my word. But we'll have to wait and see. Lap 9, the Mercedes have raced away. They're now 8 seconds clear of Lando Norris, and just out in front, controlling this British Grand Prix. The battle. This is the battle we're all over. The battle for 10th place. It has a few cars involved. Once again, Aiden Jackson is one of them. As we come into complete lap 9, we're in the 10th lap of this race. Approaching half distance, it goes by really quickly, these races. Especially when Jackson's involved. Now is Sainz going to try down the inside of this corner? No, Jackson's cornering in this car has been sensational the last few races. It seems HAAS have a really good car through and in out of the corners. So that'll be one positive HAAS can take into next season. This boy is just... He's really had a good week, isn't he? Possible links to Aston Martin. His first run in a Mercedes, he was P2. 5 tenths off Hamilton. And that's not bad for a kid who had his first run in the car. The McLarens of Lando Norris, Daniel Ricciardo got a comfortable gap over Charles Leclerc. Sergio Perez making no inroads on Charles Leclerc's Ferrari. Pierre Gasly, Sebastian Vettel and Fernando Alonso and Aiden Jackson completing your top 10. Yes, Aiden Jackson is running in 10th. Lance Stroll is now caught up to the back of the TP. So the fact that Jackson is forming somewhat a train will help Lance Stroll out. And there'll be no DRS down the straight, so Lance Stroll is going to have to pass him on the track. In a legit sense. So this is kind of evened out a bit now. We do have to question what is going on at Red Bull. They could have double figures in engine failures by the end of the season if it keeps going like this. As we said, 1 in Imola, 1 in Portimao, 1 in Spain, and then a total of 3 in Austria in both races. It has been woeful reliability for the Red Bull side of the Honda partnership, but the AlphaTauris are doing just fine, in particular Pierre Gasly in P7 again. And there is a bit of a train forming here from Jackson now, as Carlos Sainz continues to struggle to pass him. And Jackson's done tremendous pieces of defending in this race, and it's all been all legal and fair. I mean, Jackson, one of the fairest racers on the grid for the moment anyway. If there was a sportsmanship award, Jackson would win it. And it's fair. It may seem unfair to say, but a collision probably will happen with Jackson eventually. But I don't think it'll knock him too much, and he'll certainly try to avoid it if he can. The only thing he's formed though is trains, and that's only because of the speed of the HAAS. But Jackson now making the most of these rain conditions as Lance Stroll and Nicholas Latifi are battling at the back. And I think Nicholas Latifi held off Lance Stroll there. They are still battling down there, it seems. Can't really tell. And he's finally passed him now. Still, the battle rages on for P10. There was Carlos Sainz. Would he have a look around the outside? No. Because Jackson's cornering speed has been sensational this Grand Prix. The lead has grown to 8.1 seconds that Hamilton has over Lando Norris. Valtteri Bottas pretty much having no answer to Hamilton's pace either. He's almost 2 seconds behind him now. This man has had it all his own way this weekend. He generally does when he comes here. I think this and Hungary have been two of Lewis Hamilton's most successful circuits. And that will do well for his championship hopes. He's behind Valtteri Bottas at the moment in the championship. He's not had a battle with his teammates since 2016 in Nico Rosberg. And they obviously had their collision in the Austrian Grand Prix. There's Aiden Jackson again. Once again just defying all odds and expectations. He is holding off the works Ferrari of Carlos Sainz in a move which you would not expect to be doing. There was no team orders at Ferrari to have Jackson move aside because, well, for one, Jackson's not going to do it. He's on for a point here. If he could get that point, it would be wonders for HAAS again. It would be an extra point over Alfa Romeo. They just have to hope Williams don't get in the points as well. Otherwise it could be trouble for them. HAAS's Jackson is doing all he can in that car. Jackson is just so good in the loop section. He was so good in the first sector in his Mercedes run in this fastest lap that he did on the medium tyres. He was the fastest man, quicker than Lewis Hamilton, in the first sector. It's the second sector where Jackson really loses some time. Look at this. Savour this moment. Savour HAAS being ahead of Ferrari. It will probably be more of a common occurrence next season as Lewis Hamilton pits from the lead. It will probably be his only stop on 14 laps on these inters, so he'll get to the end of the race on a second set. If it doesn't dry out, it doesn't look like drying out anytime soon. The rain is getting a little less, I think, but I don't think we're nowhere near the crossover point for tyres yet, and so do some others. Daniel Ricciardo and Charles Leclerc are also in with a set of intermediate tyres. Sainz has another look at Aiden Jackson. Once again, Sainz can't pass him. This is legit. This is the legit attempt for Aiden Jackson. He's not going to move over for his Ferrari kind of his engine supplier's man at the moment, Carlos Sainz. There's no right to. And Pierre Gasly is also in. Mick Schumacher is now up to P14. Well, his father really excelled in these conditions. He was the Rainmeister for a reason. But unlike his teammate, Schumacher's not really making these wet conditions work. I suppose with Sainz getting all the attention, it has taken a lot of it away from Mick Schumacher. And you can probably tell. And I think, Sainz and Jackson were side by side, but again Jackson has so much speed coming out of the corner. He puts the power down so early. How does he even do that on the intermediate tyres? There was a move at Cops there. Sainz had to back out because there was no way Jackson was backing down. Jackson is fighting hard. He's hard but fair, Aiden Jackson. You have to admire him for that. Yeah, Michael Schumacher was a Rainmeister, but his son's not having the same success. To be fair though, the car that they are both driving really shouldn't be in the position that Jackson is putting it in. And in comes Sainz, in comes Tsunoda. And I think in went a couple of others. Now Pierre Gasly is coming up to Aiden Jackson in the HAAS. And Schumacher is in as well. Mick Schumacher came in with the most famous surname in motorsport, and yet all the attention has gone to his teammate, and he'll be thankful for that. The expectations weren't really high for HAAS. They have got their points on some form of merit, so it won't. We said it probably didn't look great for Schumacher in France, but I don't really think that's the case. Schumacher is trying his best out there. I mean, he did retire in Baku, which wasn't his fault. And he is consistently ahead of Nikita Mazepin in the Williams at least. So HAAS have got some pace about it, and Schumacher can use it. His time will come. And if 2022 is as promising for HAAS as it looks, this kid won't be at the back of the grid for long. He's an F2 champion for a reason, Mick Schumacher. His talent got him here, not his surname. It is an unfair criticism to say otherwise. He's looking pretty slow through left field, and that's out. Mick Schumacher's parking to the side here. Mick is out of the race. And that's only the second retirement for HAAS this season. So to be fair, on the reliability side, HAAS has been almost impeccable as Aiden Jackson battles with Pierre Gasly and wins out. Fantastic move there by Jackson. We got the second half of it there. And we've got team radio coming in. The youngsters got to say something. And luckily we get to hear it.
Alright Aiden, race update. Mick has retired with car trouble, and most of the runners around us have already pitted for a second set of intermediate tyres. But we feel it's raining less here now. How's it feeling out there? I think the same as you. The rain has got a lot less in the last couple of laps. I don't think we'll be too far from a dry track, and I can push these inters a little bit further, maybe another 4 laps or so. I think we should take a gamble, and if it tries, go straight to the softs. We've got nothing to lose, we might as well take it. Love the confidence, Aiden. If you think you can manage it, we'll be ready for you. It's your call. Copy, guys. Let's make this work.
And Aiden Jackson is going brave. He is going to try and stick it out. He expects the track to dry. I don't think it's going to pay off. Look at the track. It's absolutely soaked. I mean, to be fair, I think it might have stopped raining. It's certainly raining less than it was at the start of the race. Can Aiden Jackson pull off a masterstroke here? He is not pitting until he knows it's dry. Well, they might as well take the risk. They've got nothing to lose. They were expected to be out of the points anyway. So Jackson might as well take the gamble. So he is gambling on the track being dry, and he's going to run those intermediate tyres basically until they're slicks. Interesting. Let's see if Jackson can manage it. And he's certainly got the legs of Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri behind him. Sebastian Vettel has passed Pierre Gasly. And now, here comes Sebastian Vettel into Cobb's corner against Aiden Jackson. And Jackson says no. Oh my word. Jackson, well, it wasn't Cobb's, it was the opening corner. But Jackson through that corner just has so much better speed. That HAAS is a good car in the corners. And Jackson and Vettel trying to slither up the inside there. Was there contact? I don't think so. Now with the RS. Will he take to the inside? Here comes Sebastian Vettel again. And nope. Jackson shuts the door. He's got every entitlement to do that. He's not swiping off front wings by doing it. So he's got every right to. P7 now Jackson is running. And he is trying the one stopper. He wants the rain to stop now. It doesn't look like it's doing so. Although to be fair, having a look at the camera angle, there is much less rain coming off these tyres. Are we heading for a dry track? I think it might have even stopped raining, you know. It might have. Let's see if Vettel can pass Jackson here. Carlos Sainz doesn't have much luck, and neither does Pierre Gasly. Will Vettel have any luck? He's got to obviously focus on Gasly behind him. No. Jackson just placing his car in all the right places. We're on 9 laps to the end of this race. And Jackson maybe could be on for some more points. We've got a little bit But Slabber there, he had a bit of oversteer coming out of that corner. A little mistake there by Jackson. And Vettel wasn't close enough to take advantage there. And what is happening? He didn't have the best camera there, but he didn't miss anything either. Vettel is no closer there. We've got 8 laps to go. Mercedes are leading by a postcode. 12 seconds the gap between Lewis Hamilton and compatriot Lando Norris. Norris having another stunning race in the McLaren. Ricciardo seems to be coming into his own today. He's had a much quieter season with McLaren this season than Lando Norris has. We've already had 2 new Grand Prix winners. Now, Sebastian Vettel looks really close. Here comes Sebastian Vettel round the outside of Jackson going into Cobbs. Oh, what a move! What a move! Did he make it sit down? Jackson hung it out. Then Vettel leaves the track. And did he gain the position off the track? What a move by Sebastian Vettel, proving why he's a 4-time world champion. Round the outside of Cobbs. He kept his foot in. And I think he might get away with that. I think he might do. And now Pierre Gasly is passing Jackson as well. Maybe this strategy isn't going to work. It's still spraying up a lot of spray. The rain might have come back a bit more now. Jackson is still going on these inters. He's wearing them down. But what a move by Sebastian Vettel. Absolute vintage. And they say that man can't pass a car. And he just silenced all his doubters and his critics with that move. Probably some question of whether he left the track. To be fair though, Jackson was hanging it in on the inside. I don't think Vettel had much else to go. I think the FIA will let him off. I think we'll let him off with that one. Jackson didn't force him off the road. But Vettel had to make a bit of extra space to make that move count. But I think he'll get away with it. It was definitely 2 wheels off the track. I don't think all 4 wheels left the track. So Vettel will get that one in the bank. And now he's up to P7. So it still leaves Jackson in P8 now. Still on for some points here, Jackson. Carlos Sainz a bit of a ways behind now. It's 13 seconds behind Gasly, but they're following this man. Let's see him through this section. And we almost had it all there, but Jackson's really struggled on the exit at the magazine banking section. That corner in particular, he's always had to lift there. Alonso's trying to go one way and then goes the other. Pierre Gasly, and now Jackson is going to get swamped because Fernando Alonso and Pierre Gasly have got either side of him. Oh, that is heartbreaking. That is absolutely demoralising for Aiden Jackson. 2 cars either side of him going around him, and now Jackson's in the pits. Now, what are they going to put on? It's spitting, but I think the rain might have stopped. Carlos Sainz is coming in. Are they switching to dries? We've got 6 laps to go. And we can't see anyone and what tyres they're putting on. And the Aston Martin Vettel has got the softs on. They're switching to the softs on Aiden Jackson's car. He's going to wait for Alonso to go by. And Gasly. Now, this is interesting because the rain is still falling, but it's not falling as much. It's going to be an interesting move, as Jackson called it completely right. Jackson might have just saved a point. Now, Giovinazzi has gone on. Bottas is Hamilton is coming in again. There's the Williams and Latifi. Valtteri Bottas assumes the lead, so Mercedes aren't double stacking despite their humongous lead. Hamilton's on the softs. It's 4 laps to the end. And the track, it's not bone dry, but it might be dry enough for slicks in a lap or 2's time, so they're making the early switch. Jackson might have called it completely right to score a point. So Daniel Ricciardo has to go on because Norris pitted. So Bottas and Ricciardo are probably going to lose out a bit here. Although the inters should hold. But the likes of Vettel and Alonso and Gasly here are going to swamp past Giovinazzi with complete ease. DRS has been enabled because Vettel has the rear wing open down the outside. Sebastian Vettel is making the moves today in the Aston Martin. And look how much he's pulled away from Giovinazzi already. It's definitely trying for the dries. And everyone might as well go on the softs because it's going to be a sprint to the finish. So now the great equaliser has gone away. Aiden Jackson is going to have to defend against a very fast and nippy Ferrari, with the driver being Carlos Sainz here. He's only in 10th. It's going to be a tall ask for him now, but he did well in the rain. But he won't have any DRS, and when Sainz gets there, he will. It's going to be a tough one for Jackson, but he has defended valiantly before against Lance Stroll in a much more powerful engine than this Ferrari B-Spec. If he can do that, he can take this deficit as well. 3 laps to go. Valtteri Bottas is pitting, as is Daniel Ricciardo for dry tyres. Lewis Hamilton reassumes the lead and continues to dominate with 4 laps from the end, not 3, my apologies. Oh, it's been an impeccable performance by Lewis Hamilton. We've not really had to talk about him today. He will take back the lead in the Drivers' Championship. Mercedes will ever more increase their lead in the Constructors. But now, all eyes are on this man. The British crowd here today will be willing Aiden Jackson to the finish, because he is about to get caught by Carlos Sainz. But as the great Murray Walker always used to say, catching is one thing, passing is quite another. And Aiden Jackson has been the epitome of that all season long, because passing him can prove to be extremely difficult when Jackson has the machinery. The Works Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. He fought the Works Ferrari of Charles Leclerc back in France. It was a mismatch, and sadly, I hate to say it might be a mismatch here. He's about 2 seconds behind him, I believe. It's going to be a fight in the last 2 or 3 laps for Aiden Jackson then. A fight for 1 World Championship point. Can Aiden Jackson pull this off? Wouldn't bet against him, but the car might have other ideas. And he's going to try. There's no shortage of that.
Alright Aiden, Carlos is coming on you about a second and a half a lap. There's not a lot you can do about that. You're probably going to have to battle him in the last 2 laps. Give it your best. Give it your all. Copy that, boys. I won't let you down. I'm bringing this point home.
Aiden Jackson is fired up. He is bringing this point home, he says. Oh boy. Well, if that gives hope and confidence to folks watching at home who have become Aiden Jackson fans, then good. That's the idea. Aiden Jackson is bringing this point home. Let's hope he can deliver on that promise. It might be a bit too far for him, but my goodness, is he going to try. You've got to admire the lad. Oh my goodness me. Why is this kid not even in the discussion for any seat at the moment? Really, because there isn't any seats available. Well, if he can do it, let's hope he can. It's a dry track now. The sun is coming out. And only at Silverstone. It was the reverse of this back in my visit back in 2015. It went from cloudy to rain and then back to sun at the end when I walked the track. It had completely dried out at that point. Well, it brings back memories for me. Aiden Jackson won this race last year in Formula 2. He won the feature race. And now he's on for his 3rd World Championship point of the season. And my goodness, this one might be more earned than the one against Lance Stroll, because Carlos Sainz is in a much... They're just a minute to Aston Martin, but Ferrari are higher ahead of Aston Martin in most departments. And Carlos Sainz is about to draw swords. Carlos Sainz, meet Aiden Jackson. If you haven't heard about him, you're going to hear about him in a lap or two. And it's so riveting that the race director is not even focusing on the ones at the front, because Lewis Hamilton has a 7-second lead over Lando Norris and is absolutely walking it. And everyone in the crowd and at home who's become an Aiden Jackson fan, and he has a lot of them, I can tell you, he's got everything crossed for him. Oh, this is almost terrifying to watch. Sainz has a car advantage over Aiden Jackson, but in terms of skill, Jackson probably draws even with Carlos Sainz, and maybe even many of those at the top. He has drawn comparisons to Max Verstappen in his passing ability, and Michael Schumacher in his ability to make up for the deficiencies of the car. Especially after France, he got 2 points. He's on for 1 now. And now it's a straight fight. Carlos Sainz down the inside. Nothing doing, he backs out of it. Jackson places his car wonderfully well again. Jackson is very, very good out of the corners. But here is the DRS. Jackson stays to the racing line. Gives Carlos Sainz the room. And he's gone through. And he has gone through. Now will Jackson try to counter-attack? Yes, he will. And he goes down the inside. And nothing doing there. I don't think he got him. Did he get him? He did. He did. Wow. Aiden Jackson got back ahead of Sainz. We didn't see it because the camera was in the wrong position. 2 laps to go. Carlos Sainz down the inside of turn 1. Nothing doing there from Sainz. Doesn't feel confident enough to grab it. Wants to wait for the DRS zone. Jackson does the corner as well. He took that very well, Jackson. Now, will that give him some extra speed? DRS is going to be activated for Carlos Sainz down the inside. And Jackson holds to the outside again. He loves the outside of this corner. And he's going to go for a gap to the piss on the inside. And Jackson is going to get it back. Side by side, and Jackson gets the better pull out of that corner. That HAAS is so good in the corners. Sainz takes to the other side, down the inside of Carlos now. Carlos Sainz down the inside, and Jackson just keeps his foot to the floor. He kept his foot in, and he kept it to the floor, and forced Sainz to back out. Wonderfully done by Jackson. Wonderfully done. Hard racing. Look up hard racing in the motorsport dictionary, and you would see the picture of Aiden Jackson, because he defines it. Down the outside now. Carlos Sainz down the way, I think it's the way to straight down the outside, and Jackson sticks it in, and he does it again. Through the corners, Aiden Jackson has the ability to stay ahead. That cornering ability from the HAAS is keeping ahead of Carlos Sainz. We're going to have it go into the final lap then. Lewis Hamilton's probably already won this race by a postcode. And here we go then. One last chance maybe for Carlos Sainz. Jackson goes a bit wide. And over this Carlos' perfect opportunity to go down the inside of the loop section. He takes it down the inside. Oh my goodness, this is so close. Did they bang wheels? Did they bang wheels there? They might have. Oh, I think there was a brush of the wheel there on the replay. We saw it in the bottom corner. That was great work there by the crew to take that on board with Carlos Sainz. I think there might have been a wheel brush. Oh my word, Jackson wasn't giving that up. And now down the inside again, and Carlos Sainz at the back end of that one as well. And now he's slowing down. And Lewis Hamilton's already won the race. We didn't have that. We should have used that camera for when Hamilton crossed the line. We'll have to feature that next time. Oh, but we're so focused here. And now Jackson's pulling away from Carlos Sainz. Has something happened? Has Sainz sustained some damage? And I'm sure there was a brush of wheels, but we've known that the front wings are very fragile on these cars, and Carlos Sainz might have had some front wing damage from Aiden Jackson. You can't blame Jackson really, and he's gonna do it. Wow! And now he's a second clear of Carlos Sainz. Lewis Hamilton has won it, but Aiden Jackson will come through the final corner. He's fought up a valiant fight from a Ferrari. Aiden Jackson gets a point for a magnificent effort. Again, Aiden Jackson defies the odds. What a battle! Battle of the season. Was there contact? There might have been.
Oh, Aiden Jackson, you absolute beauty, mate. That's another point on the board. Well driven, buddy. Told you I'm not letting down, boys. Get in there.
He loves it. Oh, Lewis Hamilton wins the British Grand Prix again. It was never in doubt. Never in doubt. He absolutely dominated today, as he often does. Magnificent driving in the rain conditions. Didn't put a foot wrong all day long. But my goodness me. What? Wow. Again, Aiden Jackson overshadows everyone else with another point for HAAS, and that might be more earned than the two it did in France. I think there was a wheel brush between Sainz and Jackson, but in my opinion, I think it was all fair. Lando Norris finishes third for McLaren once again. Lando Norris putting the McLaren in very high spaces. Daniel Ricciardo fell to sixth, unfortunately, lost out to Charles Leclerc. Just a good recovery by Leclerc. Carlos Sainz will be gutted not to beat Aiden Jackson. He probably should have, but talent of Aiden Jackson once again puts HAAS where it shouldn't be. Max Verstappen, though, did not finish this race as the Honda crisis continues. It's a 5-point lead between Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas then, as he takes back the lead in the Drivers' Championship. Carlos Sainz solidifies third ahead of Charles Leclerc, who's got ahead of both Red Bulls as their woes continue. Jackson is now 15th. He's got somewhere to catch Ocon ahead, but at least he's got the extra point over Giovinazzi, and that puts HAAS 2 clear of Alfa Romeo, with Williams still yet to score. No points for Mick Schumacher either, as he retired, and Mercedes have a 108-point lead over Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. This season has thrown some curveballs, and we're only halfway through, lads. We got another half to go. Lewis Hamilton dominates today and wins the British Grand Prix, but once again the headlines will probably be stolen somewhat by a magnificent drive from Aiden Jackson. And if this is what we have in store for the second half of the season, I hope you will join us. You don't want to miss it. Goodbye from Silverstone. We'll see you in Hungary. We hope you enjoyed. What a race. We'll see you next time.